Hey guys, we are going to work on R1, citing evidence to support analysis of the text. So when we cite evidence, we need to know, or you need to let the reader know who said it, why they should believe the evidence that you're using. You need to use MLA citations. The evidence needs to be recent, reliable, relevant, and authorized. So we're going to talk about what that means. So for the who said it and why should I believe them? So an example, first just starting out, John Doe, doctor of psychology at the Vanderbilt University, explains that blah, 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 blah. So this is who said it, and this is why we should believe them. And that also builds in the reliable part. So make sure you give as much information as you can about the person that you're getting the evidence from, as well as the publication. So if it comes from the New York Times or CNN or whatever source you're using, if it's a website, just make sure that website's credible. So we've talked about different ways to know that. If there's a bunch of ads on the page, it's probably not the most reliable. But that's not always the case. You just got to really be careful, fact check your information, and make sure it's accurate, because there's so much fake news floating around these days. So here, these are just some sentence frames you can use to start your evidence and get started when you're just starting out. It's good to have some help, some kind of guiding phrases that'll help you cite your evidence. Okay, so your MLA citations. So I didn't put everything in the introduction to the quote like we did on the last slide, just for the sake of clarity, because that's not what I'm talking about here. So when you introduce your quote, you're going to give your introduction according to John Smith, whoever he is. You're going to put a comma, quotations, capital, in quotations. This is the page number, and the period comes at the end. Okay? We do not put his last name here if we put it here in the front. We don't put it here because it's already here. Okay? In the next example, he says, notice still, comma, quotations, capital, quotations. Now we've put his last name in the parentheses because we did not put it here. We just said he. Okay? Still, you got this period outside of the parentheses. You can also use a colon to introduce your quote. So John Smith discusses this in his article XYZ. Notice the quote or the colon is outside of the title of the article. Put titles of articles in quotation marks. We still have a capital, we still have our quotation marks, and then we have our page number and our period. Okay? So next, we need to decide if the evidence is relevant or not. So, does it directly support the claim? You can't just put any random quotation in there. So whatever you're trying to support, whatever analysis you're giving that you're supporting, you need to make sure you're actually using a quote that's doing that. So pause the video and read. The claim is students should guide their own education. Read those two pieces of evidence and decide which one best supports that claim. So again, pause the video to do that. Okay, so if you picked number 2, if you picked number 2, you are correct. This is why. We're arguing that students should guide their own education. Okay, this one, it just says what they're doing. Like, you could use this later on if you started giving examples of the type of learning that is demonstrated through projects and stuff. But the second one, when they are given an opportunity, they are going to do this. So this is proving that this is a good idea. Okay, your commentary always follows your claim, so your commentary needs to say something about the evidence you provided. Don't just throw your evidence in there and not say anything about it. So what does it prove? What is the effect? How does it connect to your thesis? You never, never, never want to use a quote without saying something about it. So here's an example of that. So, with mouse, this comes from a graphic novel. So, if you do the Jewish American unit, then this is what you would read. So, in Mouse, Vladek tends to hoard things as a result of his experiences during the war. That's my claim. In the graphic novel, Vladek wants to make Art coffee, which Art gave him. This is setting the context for my quote. I introduce it. Art responds. I use the colon. But that was 6 months ago. That coffee's completely stale. I have my author, page number, and period. That's my evidence. And then here's my commentary. Vladek has trouble throwing anything away because during the war he had to hoard to survive. This behavior continues in his later life, causing frustration for his family. Okay, so I'm taking that evidence, what he's doing, and I'm just pushing it a little bit further to prove that he's hoarding things as a result of his experiences during the war. So what you're going to do for your mastery check, you are going to use this claim. The poet Wilfred Owen believes that war should never be glorified. And you're going to support that with a direct quote and commentary from the poem Dulce et Decorum Est, which is on your literature list, or you can just Google it. It's a very famous poem, so you should have no trouble finding it. All right, so get this activity done, and then you'll be ready to move on to your next lesson.